Hello, people of Skyrim. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use the Papyrus API of the mod called SkyPrompt. I assume you know what SkyPrompt is, since you probably came to this video from the mod page of SkyPrompt. In case you don't know, I'll put the link of the mod in the description so you can check it out. But here it is. Let's just briefly look at it together. In the modern games that you probably know that we have this type of prompts on the screen to execute some actions in the game. And the goal of SkyPrompt is exactly that, to bring that into Skyrim. Well, on its own, it doesn't do anything. It's a framework for mod authors to use, and they can show with this tool their own prompts, such as these that you see on the screen. And the user interacts with these prompts, and you get, as the mod author gets in their mod, the signal that the user has pressed the button, or in a different way interacted with the button, and then based on that they can implement their game logic. All right, so let's move on to an example. Let's say you want to write a mod in Papyrus and you want to utilize SkyPrompt. So I'm going to be showing you with an example how to do that. What you want to do is to register to SkyPrompt with this method here, SkyPrompt.register for SkyPrompt event. Why? Because you want to register such that you will get events from SkyPrompt. What for events? Well, these are the type of events where you get information on what the user has done with the prompts that you have sent, in what way they have interacted with the prompts. So to be able to receive those events, you want to register your mod to SkyPrompt. And how do we do that? You can register with by sending a form to SkyPrompt. This is to associate the form that you're sending to SkyPrompt with a client ID. So you will receive a client ID when you register with your form to SkyPrompt. And you just want to make sure that the client ID that is returned by SkyPrompt is not 0. It needs to be something larger than 0. And let's talk about the form that you send here to SkyPrompt. In this case, I've chosen the form type quest. This way I have one thing, global thing, that is going to be sending the prompts to SkyPrompt and is going to be receiving the events from SkyPrompt. Technically, it's possible to send also other form types, but probably you don't need that. For example, if you were to choose object references, then you attach the script to many object references, and then they're all trying to register to SkyPrompt as separate clients. This is probably not advisable, and you probably don't need that. So one global thing, this probably suffices, and Quest is good for that. When my quest starts, this is here the onInit event, I'm going to be registering. And since the form here is unique, my quest form, I only going to be registering once. And if you try to register again with the same form, this is not going to be returning a new client ID. It's going to return the same client ID. So you're not going to be registering different clients to SkyPrompt with the same prompt, same form. Let's take a look at what other methods are made available by SkyPrompt. We talked about register. We have also unregister. This is to make you stop receiving events from SkyPrompt. And then we have the send prompt. This is how you send prompts using SkyPrompt. If SkyPrompt was successful in sending your prompts to the screen, then you will get true from this method. And if not, you'll get false. So it's good to keep track of this. To be able to use it, you need to give your client ID, the text of the prompt, and you have these two unique identifiers, more on that later, and you have the prompt type. So these are the prompt types that are available today. We have the single press, hold and keep. The single press is the one you see on the right hand side on the cheese wheel. So the user can press the button and you'll get an accepted event upon single press, and the buttons keep appearing. They do not disappear upon pressing the button. Whereas the hold one, this is what you see at the bottom GIF. The user holds the button, and then the progress circle progresses until it's complete, and once it's complete, the prompt disappears from the screen and you will get an accepted event. The hold and keep, on the other hand, this does not disappear from the screen once the progress circle is complete. And if you release the button, then the progress circle will go back to 0. Then we are at the reference form. This is when you want to attach the prompts to an object reference, for example, the cheese wheel here. So if you give the reference form here, the cheese wheel, then they will be attached onto the cheese wheel. And maybe you don't want to use the default buttons of SkyPrompt. You want to use custom keys and you want to display them on the screen. Then you need to give the keys that you want to display for each device. So you have a vector of devices and then you have a vector of keys. And the first element here, your first device, will have its corresponding key, and the second one, the second element in the keys array, etc., etc. So they need to match. And you have the remove prompt. So this is how you can remove the prompts that you have sent. Again, you give the client ID, and then you have, again, the unique identifiers. So try to give a unique pair of event ID and action ID for each prompt that you're sending. This is basically gonna function in the following way. The event ID is controlling the row that the prompt is gonna occupy. So for example, on the cheese wheel, you see 3 rows of prompts. So event ID 0 is for the top row, and event ID 2 would be the bottom row. So you can control in which row your prompt is going to appear with this event ID. And the action ID is actually for the stuff that is sharing the same row. So you can briefly see here that you have some stacked prompts. You have the sit and lay down. They are sharing the same row, but you can cycle through them. Here's another example. You see at the top, you can cycle through them. They're sharing the same row. And the position of the prompt on the same row is controlled by your action ID. All right, and lastly, you have the SkyPrompt event. You have sent your prompt, user has interacted with it in some way, and then you will get an event from SkyPrompt, and then you can decide what to do with that event, execute your game logic, etc., etc. What you'll be getting from this event is a client ID, so make sure that the client ID is matching your client ID. And then you have the event type, event ID, action ID. We talked about these two. And you have these deltas. So what I didn't explain you so far is the event type and these deltas. So let's talk about the event types. These are the prompt event types. So you have the accepted. This is, in the case of single press, what you're going to get whenever the user pushes the button. In the hold case, whenever the progress circle is complete, and hold and keep, the same. The only difference is that the progress circle does not disappear, so it can stay full on the screen without disappearing. And the declined, the user has the ability to decline prompts, so they can delete the prompts by double-clicking that you see, for example, on the right-hand side in this GIF. There's the timing out event. So the prompts that you send to the screen do not stay there forever. SkyPrompt has a certain time period where the prompts can stay on the screen, and after that they will start fading out. And during this fade out phase, you will get a timing out event. And once it's completely faded out, you will get a timeout event. And then down is basically whenever the prompt and its button is pushed by the user, you will get a down event. And when the button is released, then you will get an up event. And the move is meant for mouse moves and thumbstick moves. So that brings me actually to the deltas. The deltas are exactly for those, for the move stuff. So if you are interested in mouse moves and thumbstick moves, then you would be putting those custom keys. Yeah, the mouse move and thumbstick move can also be represented as keys. You would put them here and in the respective devices, right? Mouse and the gamepad. And then you would be getting events also for those. And when you receive those events, you will get the deltas for how much the mouse was moved, or in the case of gamepad, the delta from the center. Let me come to this remote by mod event. This is a little bit tricky to explain, but SkyPrompt offers the two following modes, where in one of the cases, all mods that use SkyPrompt, all mods that are sending prompts to the screen can coexist. And then user can cycle between prompt pages, so to speak, of different mods. And then this way, the conflict between mods is handled. But the user also has the ability to disable this mode, and basically disabling multi-page prompts. So you won't have separate pages for separate mods. The user will have only one page for prompts. And this means you send some prompts, they are displayed on the screen, and then some other mod comes later while your prompts are displayed on the screen already and tries to send new prompts. Then your prompts will be replaced by the new prompts from this other mod. And then you will get this remote by mod event. Now I want to talk a little bit about how to send custom keys. But before that, let me just also mention that these prompt types and a prompt event, when we look at where they go, so for example here, you have the type, the prompt type, it's an integer, so you give 0 for single press, 1 for hold, then keep 2, etc., etc. And the same logic follows for also the event types that you are going to receive here. So 0 for accepted, 1 for declined, etc., etc. Stuff like this, if they change, like if I decide to add another event, if I decide to add another prompt type, this you will see probably on the Nexus page. All right, now let's talk about sending custom keys / custom buttons. So here's a list of the key codes. So these key codes that you see here, these are in hexadecimal. You can convert them to integer, and you can then fill these vectors here that you see, keys, with your key codes. So this is the keyboard device, for example, the key codes for the keyboard device. Then you will have also for mouse, and you will have for Xbox gamepad and PlayStation gamepad. And this file I will provide on the next page. And the device types, again, so you give a key here, and the corresponding key needs to have a corresponding device, right? So if you give a key from the keyword key codes, then you need to put at the corresponding position in the array the corresponding device, in this case keyboard, and that would be represented with a 0. And for mouse, 1, and gamepad, 2. All right, so now we have the basics to come back and take a look at the example script. We talked about how to register your mod, we get the client ID when the quest initializes. And then here, I'm going to be sending 2 prompts. And for each prompt, I want to define some custom keys. So I have 2 devices. I have keyboard and gamepad. And for keyboards, I want the user to see the key with this key code. And that would be an H. And for the second prompt, I just go 1 up, and that brings me to J. So the user is going to see H and J if the user is using the keyboard. And for the gamepad, this is a Y key and the B. So Y and B if the user is using the gamepad. And then once we have defined all that, we can send the prompt. As I explained, we need to give the client ID, and we want to give the text that we want to see on the screen. And then what else did we have? Send prompt, text, EventID ActionID, and type. Okay, so EventID 0, that means it's going to be on the first row, the first element, and then the 0 type is a single press. So it's going to look like, as I've said, what you see on the cheese wheel on the screen. And none for the reference. So that means you don't want to attach it to any object reference. You just want it to be displayed on the screen like that. And we have the devices and keys because we want custom keys. All right. And as I mentioned that, you should keep track of the result if it was sent or not. And if it's not sent, then I'm going to be displaying a notification on the screen. And same for the second prompt. The only difference is that the second prompt is not going to be stacked on the first row, but it's going to have its own separate row. So it's going to be below the first prompt. So it's going to be test prompt, and below that we're going to have test prompt 2. All right. And once the prompt is sent, then the user can interact with it. The user can press the button, and then we will receive some events. What we receive from the event is a client ID, and we need to make sure that it matches our client ID. If not, it's a good idea to early return. What I care about is the event type, if it was accepted, right? So the 0 is accepted. I look at if it was accepted. If it was accepted, then I display a notification on the screen. Got SkyPrompt event with this EventID ActionID, and then I remove the prompt. By default, when the user presses the button with this prompt type 0, meaning single press, by default it's not removed from the screen. It's going to stay on the screen, and if you want it to be removed, then you need to remove it yourself. So what I'm going to do is when the user presses the button, then I'm going to remove the prompt, and then I'm going to give 1 gold to the player. All right, now I'm in Creation Kit, and what I'm looking for is to attach the quest script that we've been looking at to a quest. So here I have the SkyPrompt test quest, and I clicked on Start Game Enabled. This means whenever the user loads a save, the quest is going to get initialized. And then here we have our script attached to the quest form. That's pretty much it. All right, now I'm in Mod Organizer 2, and we have our mod here. Let's look at the contents. We have a script that we've been looking at. It's compiled. And we have our ESP file where we have created the quest and attached our script. It's loaded by Mod Organizer, so let's jump into the game and see what it's doing. So as expected, we got the notifications and we got the prompts. And as I've talked about, the prompts are disappearing. There's a timeout period. So the user can actually change this here. SkyPrompt has a menu, and for the sake of this example, Let's increase it to the max. And let's reload our game. So again, the notifications and the prompts. So test prompt and test prompt 2 as expected, and the keys are also working correctly. These are the custom keys that I've chosen for the keyboard device, which I'm using right now. And what we want now is, as I press the button H, I should get a gold and the prompt should disappear, which I'm gonna do now. And as you see, I got the gold and I got the notification, and let's do it for the J as well. I got the gold and I got the notification. There you go. I hope this was helpful and hope you will use this tool for your mods. See you in the next one.